May might have ended 10 days ago, but I have some stuff I want to show off that I got in May, and also this video is coming out late because I wanted to wait for one specific item to come out. So you'll understand why in just a second. But let's get right into it. So if you've ever played a block breaker game, kind of like a game where you have a platform and you move it back and forth and you're trying to break bricks by juggling balls without having them fall through, you've played a game that is based on Breakout, which originally released, I assume in arcades, but it would come to Atari 2600 as Breakout, and that was uber famous. But the second generation of block breaker games was done by basically Arkanoid. So you've probably not heard of Arkanoid specifically, but you've played block breaker games, and the game that I would say maybe popularized like the superpower version of Breakout would be Arkanoid, where maybe you get the power up that allows your platform to get bigger, or you get more balls that you have to juggle, or you get a laser and that kind of thing. So that is Arkanoid, which came out, I also assume, in arcades, but it came to both Famicom and NES in the 80s. So we got it here in North America, and this version specifically is the Famicom version, and I want to show something very specific about this because this is a pretty big box for a Famicom game, and that's because it came with its own controller. So the Famicom also had a controller that looked a lot like the NES controller that we know today, but even though you could use the NES controller to control the platform going back and forth, this specific controller is more like a knob right here, where you just turn it left and right and made it a little bit smoother to play. So I came across this one. I wasn't really looking for it, but it was a pretty good deal, and I was like, that's really, really cool, and I was really, really excited to play Arkanoid, like on my top loader NES and just using a converter to play it, and then I come to realize that the connector, the controller port for this Arkanoid controller is different from Famicom to NES. There's a version of this game that came out in North America, also originally bundled with the controller that had the correct port, but that controller is super expensive. So when I saw this one for like a fraction of just what the controller goes for, I was like, oh, that's perfect. I can now play it just this way. And I can't because the controller is different. So the search for that controller goes on, but it was really cool to get at least the Japanese version of Arkanoid and get a Japanese version of that controller. So maybe one day I will get my Famicom fixed up, get it modded for AV instead of RF, and then I will be able to play it. So that's pretty cool. That's the first game. Next game is another Famicom game, and this is Nantetate Baseball. Now, this guy's kind of interesting. This is a Famicom cartridge, but let's compare it to an original Famicom cartridge. So, first things first, that's a regular Famicom cartridge against Nantetate Baseball. And you already see, this is a solid, maybe, inch taller than a regular Famicom cartridge, but even past that, it's also way, way thicker. So, why is this cartridge so big? So it is a baseball game, there's no two ways about that, but this has to be probably one of the very earliest attempts at doing something like DLC. So here we know DLC in 2025 as you go to the eShop and you download it, but obviously wasn't that easy when games weren't connected to the internet. So this cartridge has another another cartridge port in the back. And the idea to Nantetate Baseball was that you could get these smaller little cartridges, put them into the back, and it would update the game for, say, the next season stats. So let's say it was released in 1986. They came out with a tiny, smaller cartridge that would go all the way in here, and it would update it with 1987 stats. So instead of needing to buy a whole new game, you just buy one of these little cartridges. Now, where are the little cartridges? One, they were sold separately. Two, they are crazy expensive. So this game, not too bad. I think I paid maybe 25 or 30 for it, but the little cartridges, I believe there were two of them. One little cartridge is like $250, so like 10 times as much as this cost. And the other one, I think I maybe saw like one on eBay, and we were talking probably like 4 figures for that one. So I don't even remember if I actually saw it. I seem to remember seeing it, but yeah, we're talking like solid like $1,500 to get both of the little turtles. So yeah, crazy. I got this because of that interest. I don't know if I'll ever take the time to get one of the little plugins, but definitely as a piece of Famicom hardware or software, however you want to look at it, it's pretty cool, and I'm glad I got this. Okay, we can now move on from the Famicom. We're going to work our way oldest to newest this time. And the next game is well, it's a trio of games, but it starts with a Game Boy game, and this is Pocket Family GB. So I forgot to grab a Game Boy game. Let me grab one real fast. So this is an original Game Boy game, and kind of similar to Don Tate Baseball, you see how much bigger Pocket Family GB is. So that's because this game was developed and I want to say published by Hudson, but definitely developed by Hudson. And this was one of Hudson's attempts at using a new piece of tech called GB Kiss. So a lot of Game Boy, late Game Boy and a lot of Game Boy Color cartridges came with infrared sensors at the top of the cartridge. Now, we've talked about this before here and there. We talked about it a lot when we talked about Robopon, and it's essentially a way to interact with the real world. So another really good example was Dancing Furby. That was a Game Boy Color game that had an IR sensor, and what you would do is point your Game Boy Color with Dancing Furby at a real-life Furby in the 90s, and it would make the Furby do certain things, or it might change how the game interacts. So this sort of really cool way of making real-world elements affect your in-game gameplay. So it had GB Kiss in it. I believe the game is just a life sim, not really anything super exciting. It's obviously way more interesting for its piece of hardware on the inside, and this isn't even the last game to release in the Pocket Family series. There's only 3. We got all of them. The next one is Pocket Family GB2, this one on the Game Boy Color, so same kind of idea. It's a humongous cartridge with the exact same idea. Very cool. But there was also one more PS1 game that, as far as I know, does not have the same functionality. I don't even know how it would have that functionality because it came out on the PS1. This is Pocket Family Happy Family Plan. So I came across the first 2, or I might have been just the first one, in like an auction, and I was like, that's so cool. I lost the auction, so then I proceeded to just buy all 3 games. And it wasn't really that expensive. It was, yeah, under $50 for all 3. But still, really cool. We love this neat, these neat pieces of Game Boy history, also weird Game Boy hardware, kind of going along with Don Tate Baseball, and even Arkanoid, if you want to look at it that way. So pretty cool, very exciting, and I'm glad to add those to the collection. So the next one is something we kind of talked about in April in review, I guess. I showed off that I got the original Nintendo Power strategy guide for the original Super Mario Bros. 3, and I mentioned that Super Mario Bros. 3 was remade or ported to the Game Boy Advance, and that's the version I played growing up. So I got the Game Boy Advance official Nintendo Power strategy guide. So it's basically the exact same strategy guide because the game is pretty much the exact same, but it was cool to at least get the version that I played growing up. And I also just recently replayed Mario 3. I was grappling with the idea of playing it on the original NES, on original hardware, or playing it on the Game Boy Advance like I am used to playing, but I decided to settle on playing it on Switch Online instead because I didn't want to set up the NES. NES doesn't have save functionality. I also didn't feel like digging out the Game Boy Advance cartridge, so I played on Switch Online and gave that a shot. I believe that's like the first game I've ever played completely through on Switch Online, so that was pretty neat. But yeah, I'm glad I now have the version of the strategy guide that I personally grew up with, so that's pretty neat. Next up is a trio of PSP games that I really don't know much to say about them. There's somebody that can definitely tell me way more about it, but yeah, here we go. It is Tales of the World Radiant Mythology 1, 2, and 3. So we got all 3 Tales of the World Radiant Mythology games. I can't say a whole lot. They are all part of the Tales series, so that's like the most interesting part. You know, huge RPG, a JRPG franchise to come out, and yeah, so that's the big deal here. I won 2 and 3 in an auction for relatively cheap, and then I was like, well, I can't just own 2 and 3. I had to get number 1, So I got number 1, and yeah, I don't really want to talk about them all that much. It's just cool to get like a nice, cool trilogy like that. Just some more random pieces of info. Only the first one came to North America with the exact same title, and number 2 and 3, they have pretty relatively simple cover arts, but if you open them up, you can actually see that they have reversible cover art that is a little bit more detailed. So that's true for 2 and 3. First one's the only one to come to North America, but yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to show off. Just kind of neat. If I put these in a regular Nihon no Konyo and Shokai video, I would be talking about all 3 of them probably about the same length, because I don't know a lot about the Tales series, but still very, very cool to get those 3. Okay, next up is another trio of games, this time on the 3DS. I could say a little bit more about them. Let me show them off first, because they're all the same series. So this first one is Sumiko Gurashi Koko ga Ochitsu Kondesu. This next one is Sumiko Gurashi Koko Dokonan Desu. And the last 2, I managed to accidentally come across 2 copies. This is Sumiko Gurashi Mura o Tsukuron Desu. I think I said all 3 of those right. I'm going to be proud of myself for saying all 3 of those. So, obviously, you look at these guys, and they are just absolutely adorable. And that's because they are. So, these characters are all developed or created by Sanex, which is very much kind of like Sanrio, and it's just a company that makes plushes, or they might make stationary items, you know, like binders that have these characters on them. That's a really weird example, but very similar to Hello Kitty, where, you know, you have every form of not just media, but also, you know, you can just buy Hello Kitty branded products. And the same is true for Sumiko Gurashi. I don't remember when they were found, but they're entirely based, or created, I should say. I keep saying found, developed. They're entirely based on this Japanese culture phenomenon, we'll put it, that people like to sit in corners. So if you look in at least this first one, you know, they're all sitting in a corner. Are they sitting in a corner in this one? Yeah, they're kind of like sitting all together in a corner. That's kind of what it's about. Like, that's their shtick, that all of them, you know, it's like people that go to coffee shops and sit in corners. I don't know. That's where it's based off of. But yeah, pretty cool. They're absolutely adorable. I think I'm missing one more 3DS game, and there's a bunch of Switch games. So kind of like Mamegoma, who we've talked about maybe briefly here on the channel. Mamegoma is like that. Goma-chan is like that. And I would like to get all the Switch games for it. Maybe even if I don't get a lot of like the merchandise related to it, it is still pretty cool to get some games in that series. And yeah, maybe we'll talk about Mamegoma more in detail in the future. Okay, so that's that. We'll get around to more of those as they come in. But yeah, we're nearing the end here already. So the next 2 are Switch games. So, you know, if you watched the video last week, you saw me go through most of my Switch collection in memory of Switch 1, if you will. Switch 1 isn't dying, but like Switch 2 released on Thursday. So I put out all the games I had, and then I proceeded to get these games either the day of or the day after I recorded that, and it was a little bit of a debacle to record and edit that video. So these aren't included, but we'll talk about them here. Both of them are from Limited Run. This first one is Castlevania Dominus Collection. It's a little play on here. Dominus is starts with a D, ends with an S, because it is a collection of all the DS games. So those 3 games are Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow, Portrait of Ruin, and Order of Ecclesia. So all 3 games remastered, brought to Switch in this collection. It also has Haunted Castle Revisited, which, I don't remember. I remember reading about it, but I forgot about it before this video. It was either like not a parody, but like extension of the original Castlevania games, or it was like an obscure arcade or obscure version of Castlevania. I don't know why parody's coming into mind. I think that's right. But yeah, it's a compilation of the 3DS games as well as Haunted Castle Revisited. Somebody in the comments can tell me more about Haunted Castle, because I already forgot. I should have wrote that down, but it's okay. So, cool limited run release of all the games. They had single regular Switch size releases, but each one had its own artwork. And this specific version, I believe this is the Classic Edition, it has all the artworks already included. So that's why I got it. I didn't want to feel like, oh, I only got one of the artworks. That's the way we get all of them. So, second to last item, but it's the last game in the episode, and this is Snufkin, Melody of Moomin Valley. This is the deluxe edition, also from Limited Run. So, if you've seen this channel before, we've maybe talked about Moomin before. Moomin is kind of similar, a little similar to Hello Kitty, Sumiko Gurashi, but a little bit more bigger, a lot more bigger than Sumiko Gurashi. Not quite as big as Hello Kitty, but in Europe and even in Japan, point is way more popular than here. Moomin was sort of like a TV show for kids growing up, specifically in Europe. I remember I had somebody that was part of my life when I was a lot younger who, she was from Finland, and she would tell us all about her watching Moomin as a kid. And I didn't have any access to Moomin media growing up. She might have showed us like an episode on YouTube or whatever she was able to find, but point is, not popular here at all in North America. I don't believe there's a single game that came to North America out of the Moomin series. So I believe, I could be wrong, I think this is the first game in the Moomin franchise to ever come out. And yeah, there we go, pretty cool. I've gotten some of the other games before. If I'm not getting them in Japanese, I'm trying to get them in Finnish because that's how they were released. There was like a Game Boy Color game that was like just in English, like nothing weird. But like, for example, there's like 2 or 3 DS games, and I have one of those DS games specifically with like Finnish subtitling, but you could also get in like Norwegian or maybe Spanish. So kind of weird, kind of cool. But Limited Run released this deluxe edition. They also had a regular edition, but so cool. Reminded me of that person that I knew growing up. And yeah, super cool to get this one. Couldn't tell you anything about the game, but you know, we've tried over time to buy some Moomin stuff. Anyway, we have one more item in this episode. Maybe this is the one that had to wait until June for me to even record this video, but we've talked about Ape Escape so many times on this channel, and I don't remember if it was April in review. It might have been like March in review if I even did that video, but a long time ago, maybe just like a few years ago, there was an Ape Escape single vinyl record of like 4 songs from the original PS1 game by Soichi Terada, the music director for the original Ape Escape, and the games were the songs were remastered, remade, however you want to word it, for music, and put on vinyl. Just why not? Random release. And the day that that came in and that I showed that off, I happened to see that there was also another vinyl set coming in the exact same idea, and that finally came in. This guy is humongous. Soichi Terada Ape Escape Originape soundtrack, not original, Originape soundtracks in a box. So I believe, I'm trying to remember, I remember reading it when I pre-ordered it. It was actually a pre-order, and it just came in. And this was, I'm pretty sure it has music from Ape Escape 1, 3, and there was one more game, I can't remember what it was. It's either that or it's all original Ape Escape 1. I'm pretty sure it actually might be Ape Escape 1, just music. But, you know, I don't collect vinyl anymore. I collected vinyl a long time ago, but yeah, I came across this one and I was like, I have to get it. It was a little expensive, but for what I've been buying in terms of media merchandise around Ape Escape, I had to get this one to go along with like the DVDs, the CDs. Yeah, so cool. Really happy to get this, and yeah, that's everything that we got in May. So thank you so very much for watching. There's some games in this video that I kind of skipped through, like the Tales games. Maybe you know something more about Sumiko Gurashi or Pocket Family. I'd love to hear about them. If there's anything I got wrong, anything I could say more, please let me know. I would love to continue learning about these games as much as I have hopefully taught you something. So with that said, I will see you on Friday for another video. No short this week, very tragic. But until Friday, bye. Forgot to show that one thing off. And I got a Switch too.